that's one way to get those type of data there. Then you may already have APIs available. So there's a MeteoGate API gateway, which can be used in front of your own API gateways. I will discuss more about this because this is the topic today, button 2. And the third one is the direct access. So you want to do your own API and you want to host it and give direct access there. That's perfectly possible. Then you do your own thing, and that's about it. In addition to that, you have to, of course, then add discovery metadata to the catalog, MeteoGate/this2 catalog, and notifications to the broker. So these are the main 3 buttons. So many of you already have APIs, so we can onboard it to the MeteoGate API gateway. And the reason to do that is that, well, first of all, it provides this one-stop shop. So if user registers or is required to register, he can do it only once and get API key that works to all these APIs that are onboarded in the API gateway, and they don't have to go separately to France or Denmark or Netherlands or wherever, 35 different places. They can only register once and use that same API key to different services, provided that those services are onboarded to the MeteoGate API gateway. It acts also as a proxy in front of your own API. So depending on how you want to implement your own API, there's a lot of things to do regarding that to protect the API. But you can offload that kind of work to the MeteoGate API gateway. We provide, in addition to the joint registration, also the rate limits, and those rate limits can be set by route. So you can choose your own rate limit to your own API. It doesn't have to be common for all the backend APIs, meaning your data sources. And thirdly, it offers inside service. So, like someone yesterday mentioned, I think it was from the Netherlands, that one of the reasons why they want users to register is to know who uses the data and how much. So there is inside service also in MeteoGate, so you get that kind of statistics of your of the usage of your API. And today's, since this is hands-on training, today's exercise is to onboard APIs to the MeteoGate. And as this is the exercise, it doesn't really matter which API you onboard. It can be a real one that you use, or it can be any API basically. It doesn't have to be EDR, it doesn't have to be WMS, it can be any API that you happen to have available. So the process of adding new APIs, or in the API gateway it's called routes, is to create a short configuration, and that configuration is added to the GitHub repository. And then when a new configuration is pushed to the GitHub repository, there's a GitHub action that runs, and it deploys the new configuration to the API gateway. Or it's actually 2 API gateways. So we run one gateway in the European Center, European Weather Cloud, and one gateway in the EUMETNET part of the European Weather Cloud. So they are totally independent. So even if one goes down, the gateway still is working. And currently, the load balancing and high availability is handled with the DNS in Amazon Route 53. So it monitors both API gateways, and if both are up, it routes the traffic based on the latency of the user. And if one of those goes down, it routes all the traffic to the working one. So even though both individual parts of the European Weather Cloud, their SLA is relatively low, but together, by using these both parts of the European Weather Cloud, we get higher service level for this service.
Excuse me. What do you use to achieve this? It's on AWS?
Sorry?
What do you use this to make
It's a DNS based.
DNS based?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are using Amazon Route 53. Same thing that, for example, EUMETNET is using itself, but they don't offer it as a service, so we implement it independently on the AWS. So the traffic doesn't go through the AWS, it's just the DNS resolution. So when user goes to api.meteogate.eu, it resolves to some IP address, and that's a dynamic. So it goes to the either one of those based on your location. But if the other one is down, it always resolves to the IP address of the person.
And how long does it take in case one side goes?
Yeah, I don't remember what we put there as a delay. It's probably a minute. But there's some additional delay because you can choose it requires multiple failed checks before it. So if it fails once, it doesn't immediately point to the other one. So there's a little bit delay, but it's not long. Okay. Any more questions?
I have a question. In the pattern 3 section, we see this PC registration we did 2 days ago. Is it required to do the same if we are going through the MeteoGate gateway, or the gateway itself registers?
No, you still need to do the these two things. So you have to create the metadata and you have to send notification only. It doesn't, of course, apply to you. You have to do anyway. But if member country is sharing their data through ESO, or radar operator data or one, so in those cases, the member country doesn't need to do the messages. But of course, everyone is still responsible of the metadata entries, except in the.
But if we would like to use the MeteoGate API to rate link for API,
yes,
then we should register with the MeteoGate URL. So the metadata should point.
Yes, so in that case, you point the metadata to the API.meteogate.eu instead of your URL. And there's an example we did in Helsinki, your API, but now it has the API key. So if you want to do that, you have to create API key that is meant for our API gateway that doesn't have rate limits or it doesn't expire. So I will show you in this exercise how to do that, and we can have that kind of API key available. We can put it here and test it.
Yeah. It's worth noting that in the discovery metadata you write, you can have a link which points to the MeteoGate gateway. You could mark that one as canonical, meaning it's your preferred one. You could also publish it from your native national endpoint as well. So your service can be exposed in multiple ways. It's not a choice of either or.
But in the case if there's an API key requirement, then it's a little bit more complicated because the other one requires it and the other one.
Yeah, I'm going to show people some examples of how you describe that an API should be needed. I keep plugging it. It better be good, right? Back to you.
So I put the link to this GitHub repository. It's a public one. But this is not the one that runs the GitHub Actions. I decided against adding you all there, partly because I didn't receive the username, but also I noticed that there might be some security implications, so we do it differently. So you have option in this repository. I placed the conf directory here and a couple of examples. I will go through the examples. So you can create your own configuration and do pull request to this repository, and we will add it at the configuration here, and I will move it then manually to the big one so that we can deploy it. Or if you don't want to deal with the GitHub, you can just create a file and send it to the chat. Please do not copy paste, but include attach the file so that because YAML is very sensitive about spacing. Okay, so there's a lot of options in the configurations, but I tried to create 3 different example configurations that illustrate the possibilities. There is, for special cases, there's more options, and if needed, you can go through those, but I think this covers hopefully 90% of the cases. So first one is simple one. This is what is currently configured to the FMI route. So these things are my comments, so you have to remove this copy here. But I would prefer that you use the example files from the config directory when you start doing this. So this one doesn't have any rate limits. So any incorrect, there is the default rate limits behind, but it's very open. It doesn't require registration also. So it's possible to require our anonymous usage without any API key, and it's possible, and this can be done through basis. Can someone close the microphone?
I don't think it's ours.
Or maybe it's the van.
I think Jane is the one that has been talking today. So, will you close your mute and microphone, Jane?
Everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm just hearing that.
Thanks.
So this is the ID, and it has to be, it can be anything, but it has to be unique. So when we do pull request to the real repository, whoever is checking the pull request, make sure that the ID is unique, but the user, your country code or institute codes, and if you have multiple APIs on board, you have to have something that identifies your. Let's say that you want to put your WMS and your EDR and the stack or whatever APIs there. You can do multiple routes, but the ID must be unique. Currently, we only have version 1. Then we can choose if you want to deploy this to the European center side or EUMETNET side. But in practice, we always deploy it to both. So don't change this. This is just that we can add additional platforms later. For example, if EUMETNET decides at some point to run one instance, for example, in AWS or somewhere else. Then comes the root part. So in this case, the root is FI/EDR, meaning that the full API endpoint would be api.meteogate.eu/FI/EDR. this obviously have to be also unique because we share the same API gateway. So I don't think, do we, Jeremy, have yet the policy how to name the routes?
No.
Yeah. So for now, put your country code or institute acronym there, / and then whatever API it is. Then you put your endpoint. This is the root of your service. In our case, it's open data. .fmi/EDR. And the API gateway, of course, will rewrite the links in the API if there's like a full links inside the API. Or you could use relative links in the API. In that case, it would work also. And in this case, if the upstream API doesn't have a course headers, like was the case yesterday with the climate aggregator, API6 can add those headers on the fly. So usually we put it here anyway, so it will add it always.
So what are those course headers?
Course headers are needed in order browsers to use the API from the programs. So if you do web application, JavaScript application, and you want to fetch something from the API that runs in the browser needs to have permission to do that. And it cannot be circumvented in the browser, so it has to be the service, the backend service that outputs is there.
Okay.
So when we create these APIs, and nowadays many of the applications are web-based, like the GeoWeb, for example. So if this header doesn't exist there, the browser gives an error that it doesn't have permission to go to that address and get whatever information it needs in there. So it's very important to have that header. Okay, that was example one, the simple example, no rate limits. Then we have a second example. So as you can see, the ID is different. Root is the endpoint or the upstream address is same as in the previous example, but the root is different. So in this case, we have F5/rate limit/EDR. So if you go to this root, you hit the rate limits. And there's a couple ways to do the rate limits. Let's go, and you can do both or one of these. So maybe you want to just start with the quota. So this tells how many requests per this time window is allowed. So in this case, it's allowed 100 requests in 300 seconds. And
from one IP address.
sorry?
From one IP address.
In this case, for the user group, so the anonymous group. These limits are very small for testing purposes. So if you put this kind of limits there, it's gonna get clocked very easily. So the real numbers have to be bigger. But if you want to test and hit those red limits, you can put the small numbers there. Then it might be that some applications, or in some cases, there's like a burst of request. So there's possibility to have like a base rate of requests, but temporarily it will allow this amount of requests. So instead of when it hits the limit, instead of giving error code to the user, it queues the request up until this limit. So you can allow that kind of temporary bursts, so that we can minimize the in a busy situation the errors that the users would get. And with these, you can also set these separately for the anonymous users. So if you allow this route to be accessed by anonymous users, they have these limits. And then if they register, they get the different limits. Of course, you can put same limits in both or don't allow one or the other. Then we have the case that might be or is valid for you, and the example here is from Denmark. So this is the Danish EDR, forecast EDR service. This is the route for it. And then we add header parameters. So the user is using their own API key from the MeteoGate to access the service. But when the request comes to the API gateway, it will do a separate request, of course, to the upstream API, and it will use the header, which is required by the Danish service, with the key that is meant for the MeteoGate. We don't have key for your service yet, so it's using either my personal register keys, whatever limits it has. So if you want to do this, we need key from you. Or you could whitelist the IP address of these gateways, so there's multiple ways, but
yeah, then we can create a key with higher user limits.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. Yes.
And make sure that it doesn't expire, or if it expires, we have to make sure that it's changed in the system before it expires. And this key is, of course, not visible here in the configuration because, well, it's a secret. So it comes from the vault, which is one component in the MeteoGate installation. And if you need that one, like in your case, if you can generate the API key, I will add it through the web interface here separately. So that's not part of the configuration because it's a secret, so we don't want to share it.
Oh.
Yeah. Any questions at this point?
Just for testing, I can put a file instead of API.
Sorry?
Just for the first test, I can put just a shared file instead of the API.
Yeah, or you can use one of your APIs like the VMS and put some API to there, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It can be any address.
I don't want to run into tokens.
Yeah.
They use the authorization header, the Spira, so the Spira needs to be part of the variable environment variable.
Yeah, so this is basically just the name that you need. So in your case, it was Jason.
Authorization and Spira.
Yeah, so it needs to be part of this.
The secrets.
Yeah, secret.
You put the secret in there.
Yes.
We send you.
Yeah. So I send you a pull request.
Ah, okay. So it is requested. And let's see.
I put my private API key in here, so I'm going to see if it works in entity.
No, like I mentioned just now, you shouldn't put the keys there.
Yeah. Can you fix that for me?
I can. You want to show it?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody can write down like a 56-bit hash number, then go for it.
Let's check. So Jeremy did, yeah. So this has to be removed.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah. Okay, so this points to the KNMI platform, and it has the key. But in to KNMI, we already have the secret for testing purposes, so you could put here instead of this, you can put with the capital S KNMI key.
Okay. So if you reject that one,
I think you can edit it I can see. I don't have to reach just. Okay, there was something else. But so please, everyone, just pick API or whatever address to one of these configurations and send it to me as a pull request or some other way.
So you said that this could be just about any API, not the EDR with the metadata discovery.
Yeah, if you have any API, just use that.
Yes. So at this point, this is just this is just to advertise your URL for the MeteoGate members.
Yes.
And then you have to do all the discovery yourself, right? This is.
Yeah. So you have to like it was. It's a couple of days ago. You have to do the discovery metadata. But this sits in front of your API protecting it and giving you the inside service and giving it the joint authentication so that you just have to register everywhere separately. So if you have any API now, you can try to do this, and afterwards, when I deploy it, you can test it. API.MeteoGate.eu/ whatever root you put. So it's going to be deployed live. So you can test it immediately afterwards.
What was the secret link for
KNMI
key. Next space is all up.
Yeah.
Det er mere bare så skal vi ikke til at konfigurere. Så hvis vi alligevel kan kontrollere values igennem, hvis alle bruger lidt så er det faktisk authentication og hvis vi alligevel kan styre med ja, så kan vi også ligesom sørge for det er også det
Depends on the number of you. I guess they require authentications and sorry.
Sorry, Jeremy. It was KNMI API key.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You want me to change it again?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So if we require authentication, then we need to specify the rate limit.
In this case, you have to. I have to take it there was some separate config to disable anonymous access. Or if you just put the rate limit for anonymous 0.
Yeah.
You don't want to allow that anonymous.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Every value to 0.
So I will start deploying these. But before that, I will show you the. You can see the exercise from the link that I sent you earlier. So after you have pushed your changes to the repository or make a pull request, then I will start deploying this. And afterwards, when I say that I have done yours, then you can go to the api.meteogate.eu/ whatever route you put there and test it. If anonymous access is allowed. If not, or if you want to test both, you can go to dev.portal.meteogate.eu and log in with I can show here. So you can log in with your Google or GitHub account and create API key for you. So I will go here. And get API key. And then using this key, you can test your route if you require API key. Or if you don't, you can test, or if you allow both, you can test both anonymous and with the API key. And in MeteoGate, you can put the API key either in the as a parameter in the address, or use it in the header. And while I'm here, I will show there's a button, this green button, show routes. So if the deployment was successful, your route will show up here as well. So if I go back to the exercise, the last bit, test your API with the API key. So this is the parameter, API key equals your key. Or put the API key in the header. So in that case, the header name is API key, and the value is essentially shot from the dev forecast. Okay, there seems to be updated one from Jeremy. Yeah, approve it.
Third time's a charm, right?
Yeah, it only took 3 commits. I'm doing that next. All right. So while the others are doing their configuration, I will deploy these configurations. So there I'm here, and I will switch to the repository. So let's see what happens. So now I committed Jeremy's configuration here, and if I go to the actions, you can see that the GitHub action fired, and it should do testing and other stuff, and finally deploy it both to the European, both sides of the European weather cloud. So let's see what happens.
Generally speaking, using GitHub to trigger a whole bunch of stuff and make sure everything's consistent, that's got a new name. It's called GitOps. Right? We've had DevOps, now this is GitOps. It's a thing. Right?
Yeah, it's pretty popular and common nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay, while it's doing its thing, I will add the DMIs route.
Oh yeah, I need to.
Do you need to do some changes to it?
Yes, it's just create a new folder now.
Okay.
Could put an underscore in the URL.
Sorry?
With the underscore, that was the problem. Now it's a dash instead. But now, I'm just testing it. Now you can, the URL does exist, and you can.
Okay.
Use the API.
Okay.
I'm going to say, registering in the dev portal, I hadn't done that before, but just clicking sign in with GitHub. It's just so easy.
And you only have to do it once, and then you get access to all the APIs that can be there.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So we can see here that the Jeremy was successfully run. So now if you go to the dev portal, let's see. So rules, there should be now Jeremy rules somewhere.
There I see it.
Okay, and let's test it. So this points to the, was it the climate API?
Yeah.
I get something, yes. So this points to the KNMI service with the API key. But now I can go there through this API gateway. And as you can see here in the EDR API, it rewrites the addresses or the links to point to itself instead of whatever is the original API.
Just for fun, do you want to see if that works with GeoWeb now?
Sure.
So one of the things we spotted yesterday, after our friends from KNMI had presented their stuff, they got an EDR endpoint, which should be displayable in GeoWeb Data Explorer. But they don't set cause headers, which means that GeoWeb was not able to make the requests. So by setting up through the gateway, I've added cause headers to the request. So it should work, right?
Let's name it.
Of course, if their terms and conditions said that I wasn't allowed to do that, I would never do that in an operational environment. Let me be clear, right?
And this is in your personal
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a Jeremy here. Yes. I don't know which one is.
Hourly.
Sorry?
Hourly.
This one. Okay. Let's take
T for temperature, maybe?
no, this whole clean. This is not the. And here you see the locations from the. I don't see the data. Yeah.
Sorry, one question. Can you just do this part of where did you discover Jeremy's?
So it's I put the repository link in the chat. So it's this one, API onboarding training, and there's the.
Okay, yeah, you copy like you can by hand you copy to the operational.
Yes.
GitHubs. Now we are on the OpenGeoWeb. You just guide me through the like user interface.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it depends what kind of API, because currently OpenGeoWeb supports WMS, Web Service, and EDR for the time series type of data. So if you have either one of those, so for the VMS service, you click open this layer manager here, and then the plus. Here we have the pre-configured and my personal service chips, but you could put your VMS endpoint address here. Whether it's your direct link or if it comes through the MeteoGate API.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be the one that Jeremy submitted already. I could just.
You can put any VMS address here.
Okay.
And then it gives you option to save this kind of service chip here, and then you click that one. This is the public European center.
Okay, but I guess now we are searching for the one that Jeremy submitted.
Yeah. So that one was EDR. So I'll open here from the preset. This will be easier in the Explorer.
Okay.
But for now, you have to open one of these time series presets, like I already did here, and then the layer manager here, or the time series manager is here. So I added data source here already, but it's from this button. You get similar thing that you get with the VMS. So here you can copy paste the API gateway address or your EDR service address. I already did that. If you go here, we see all the service. Jeremy, so
yeah, what's the point of adding it to the VR configuration file then? If you get it like it's
Okay, normally what would happen is you'd be given permission to do a pull request. Sorry, pull request
No.
directly.
it was, I think, different question.
Oh, right, sorry.
So the pull request and the configuration that I showed you, that onboards your API to the API gateway. So the request goes through the API gateway instead of directly to your API. In order to protect your API and the rate limits and common EUMETNET login or API key, and to get the inside service from the API gateway.
okay, so the matching is done like I would just type in Jeremy's EDR and upon request MeteoGate will say, oh, like I have this entry already in the configuration, so I'm gonna proxy this to my
Yeah. But in here you can also put direct links to anything that is not MeteoGate.
So this is just abstraction for users to not to have to deal with so many different API keys.
Yes.
That's the biggest.
That's the biggest for the user, and for you, it adds additional protection from the internet to your API, and also gives you inside service, information. You may already get that from your API, but if you don't want to implement all that, you get it from the middle.
But again, like me as a user having to type Jeremy's EDR or like KMN's EDR, that's still not.
And that's why we have this
discovery
data explorer that was
okay.
briefly demonstrated was it yesterday or the day before that. But so if you go to the data explorer address in the future, it opens by default the data explorer, which means that you get user interface to the catalog. So if you do the discovery metadata, you can find it directly here. So actually this version does it. Have it, let's go. So it's relatively new and it's not ready yet, so it's only in the development version. So there will be this kind of data explorer. So if you do the discovery metadata, like it was fixed earlier, and publish it to the local discovery catalog, this is the user interface for that discovery catalog. Now if I search whatever let's say I want to find radar data, okay, I get a lot of responses. Let's select the North American composite. Someone has put that in the global discovery catalog. And if it's a data type or API type that you understand, there's an add button is activated there. So if I press this, it pre-populates the service and selects the layer. So you don't have to do any of that manually like I just did with the Jeremy's thing. But if Jeremy would have published that API to the discovery catalog, like he did yesterday, then I wouldn't have to do that. I would find it from the Explorer and it would pre-populate it here. So now if I go here, it's probably should be basically active. So I don't have to type the address, I don't have to find the layer separately. I can do that all directly from the Explorer.
Sorry, the discovery metadata was that the 2 days ago on the
2 days ago, yes, yeah. In the first day. Yeah. And maybe Jeremy, could you publish your discovery metadata to the test?
I have not done that.
we just trained how to do that.
I'm giving credit. I was trying to get halfway there. Yeah. So currently nobody can find the thing that I published.
Yeah, I mean, if you have time now, you could create quickly the catalog entry and push it to your test server, so we could see it here.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I want to check if there's other routes. So the DMI route next. Did you Peter test it already? Peter, did you test the route? It should be published now.
Yeah, I've tested the link inside the config file. Now I guess the config file needs to be rolled out by you.
I did it already. So here I put that. It's small, but here you can see in the address line it points to the MeteoGate API gateway, and this is the route that you put in the configuration. So now it's published, and I get at least a response from your server.
Yes. Yeah, I've tested now too. Yeah, I think actually it's the same.
If I go here to inspect the request, let's go network. This one and refresh. You can see the header. So the rate limits are visible also here. So the limit is 50 that you put there. I don't remember what the time window was, and at this point when I refreshed the page, there was already one.
So you use 2 requests now,
Yeah, so if I now do quickly.
Then it should be 47, 46, 25.
Yeah. So what is it remaining? And if I do this 50 times, I should get error that the rate limit is exceeded. And the request doesn't go to your API anymore, it stops in the API.
Yeah. Great. Perfect. See here we have coded the V2 meetups preamble on the path. So yeah, that won't work now. That's broken. I have to fix that somehow. I thought this might happen.
Well, it should automatically replace them. What was done?
Yeah, I put the V2 meetups in that path, but I can.
Yeah, you have to put only the root. So up until remove this.
What about the ID then?
Sorry?
And then I can choose some ID, and then the V2 meetups columns after the ID in the path. What?
No, actually, this should work. It's same as we have a /EDR. So why?
What happens if you press the API?
So what's missing? It should be EUMETNET. So what is the correct access for the collections here?
I mean, in terms of the unprotected input?
Yeah.
That would be, /V2 meetups collections. But I guess because this is through the MeteoGate API, then you would need the whole DK rate limit meetups feature, the ID part in front.
Yeah, this is missing. So
yeah, so our API doesn't take kind of the rules it's on and puts into the links that they return.
Yeah, this depends on how the backend API is implemented. We can do some trigger here, but the easiest one is, it's actually in this documentation here. If I remember correctly, so you have to put some, or obey some proxy headers. So I don't know if you use this X-forwarded or X-prefix headers. I think if you use the API gateway yourself already, so I think it should.
Yeah, but this URL I am dreamt up is bypasses the gravity
Okay.
gateway. That's not this.
Yeah, we can check that. But I had a similar problem with one service that didn't follow this proxy headers.
Yeah.
It can be fixed on the API gateway, or you can fix it on the backend services if you control that. But,
So why you send the X prefix header and then you don't just put it in your prefix.
yeah, so the proxy will send these headers, and based on that, you can read them.
Okay.
Like if I go to the
So if my API responds correctly to that header, then we can
yeah.
configure the gateway to.
So if I go to the HVDR here. So you see the part is here correctly. But if it's difficult for you to change the upstream API, you can do it in the API 6 part also. It's a little bit more trickier, but
I think
drawn to errors. But,
if you want to do it today, then maybe it's a little bit too difficult to change the upstream. But I could go and change that.
yeah. So do we have more files here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please I'm sure about this ID.
I didn't know if that includes a directory or the file.
Sorry?
As an endpoint, yeah, includes a directory, target directory, but NGA should have included the file.
It doesn't matter because you can add in the proxy address, you can put whatever behind this.
Okay.
So this is just the root of the API in your text. So we can try to deploy this. And did you say you could?
Yeah. And I sent you an email with the
Okay.
That's where you know,
You sent the configuration also by email? Or
no,
yeah,
no,
I don't
it's
see
in the repo. I commented directly. Sorry.
it's,
Do we have the commission?
Yeah,
I didn't protect the name.
yeah, it's not
Okay, then Anders online has committed the SMHI Swedish API. So Anders, if you are hearing me, is this the file in the API or is this the rule?
That's our endpoint for the old Inspire APIs but I think perhaps it won't work in the Explorer, I suppose, but I just wanted to try it out.
Yeah. So this points to the certain address here, and the links are.
It's more of a static data set download service, this atom feeds.
Yeah, so in this case, I think it should be, the address should be the first part here. And then, because otherwise the other links won't work because it will always add this thing.
Okay, I'll just.
If you modify your pull request so that it's only the host part in your case.
But I think if you access that only that part, you will get to another landing page somewhere.
I know,
So-
but when you advertise this service, you do it like if I type in here api.meteor.eu/api.json. So you have to advertise this, but in the configuration you put only the host part in your case because it's the common nominator here. So if you modify the pull request, we can test it. My theory if it works.
Okay, try it out.
Right. Meta Alarm is here now. It's a little bit different because it requires an API key for the upstream service. So it's already here in the configuration. Yeah, so let's check ID warnings. Yeah. Okay, except the ID might be already in use. So maybe we can replace the one that we did in Helsinki because it won't work anyway. So if I go to the actual operative repository.
The important thing to test now is, I guess, the authentication.
Yeah.
That's something new.
So this is the one that we did in Helsinki.
Yeah.
Let's edit this and replace this. And if you don't plan to put any more APIs, you could just
go with one. Yeah, sure.
I think this is if you like this. So
shouldn't the version segment be visible, or will this eat?
It's up to you. You can put it like this, and then you advertise the MeteoGate address like.
Or even also remove the EVR maybe, and we have the same relative URL in both systems.
But if we want to add the different API to this service, non-EVR, and then.
I know.
Yeah, it's up to you. Or you can have
for now, this
warnings.
The root URL
dash something. And, yeah, it's up.
Because then you can release a V2 without this service.
But I think that's good. Isn't it a good idea to have the?
Yeah, you're correct. So you should leave that version out of the app because then if you want it, so it depends of course. Now if you leave out, then you can choose which one you use.
Yeah.
But if there's like a transition period, if there's a breaking change, like it probably is. So you want to give the users probability to use the new one. So in that case, you leave that version.
I would specify here.
Good.
Or should you speak it out?
Or like this is maybe not better because it addresses your point. But
That's I will deploy this.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. So, but before I do that, I have to.
But I think this actually is not a valid URL, so EDR won't redirect to EDR v1. So this root URL won't.
No, but then you have to just advertise the address.
Or we can advertise the root URL because that redirects to EDR v1 and we have control of the redirect.
Yeah, EU. Although the redirect. Yes.
In this method more.
Oh, sorry.
Should you please check the EU?
Yeah, ORG. Yeah.
But,
so what was this?
just
API doesn't matter, I'm just
Där
for
var det
ORG.
till sidan.
I just changed the MeteoGate to Meteo.
So what was that? Did we put the V1 or not?
That's good. It's good that the V1, we can change this.
Yeah.
For now, it's.
Okay. So now I have to do the, I do it in the separate window. So
Is this header farm authorization with the capital okay? Because
yeah, now I have to in the wall create that API before I submit this. So I will do it separate in different window.
Let me check to have the URL already
the ferry.
At
the end of the URL. So.
Shouldn't be.
Just
That's the kind of point of indoors.
So I'm doing this in a separate window because my token export.
You can see it at the time.
Just want to see something. Then,
Copy the key here.
this is
Here.
manageable using the
No, the route would be, if you have the complete file, the export, you see the route. See, I mean, this. So at least, yeah, at least we know that there is no movement. Yeah. And you know that it's
because I will try this one.
And you said you put it in my email. Okay, now it will commit it.
Is the purpose of the time limit to block the views of the
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the problem is it's all that we are.
Maybe you can do one for our VMs.
If I can, so I just wanted to finish something out.
The first exercise. And then the rest. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so maybe like maybe there is a mistake somewhere. So we want to there was one word when we sent it.
Okay, so if you
But at least somebody who's thinking no longer have it, but I can bring it back.
Okay, so your configuration failed, but I noticed that I only added the secret to the EUMETNET side of the cloud, so I have to deploy both sides. I asked one guy in Finland to do it while I do this other, so because I don't have to talk about the European. So we have to wait. In the meanwhile, I will add here the Anders from Sweden API. So let's copy it from here. This points to the current open data API. And I will copy it here, create a new one.
Everything with the web-based it's all you. People who will probably working now everything is becoming means of communication. So whatever you do, it's yeah. When you change that, so like stuff like FTP is since you go to technology, we just got language technology. It's yeah, for me.
Now I will commit David.
This will be your the here.
Okay, so Mikko did one for our VMS server. Let's deploy that as well. Then I think everyone's is there. Now we have to wait a little bit to ask the keys to the meta alarm, otherwise they will fail. Is there any more configurations coming from online or here? Does MeteoSwiss have any test?
Okay.
What about Slovenia? No.
Unfortunately, we feel a little bit embarrassed to say that we don't have any public URL APIs to play with at the moment.
Okay. It could be static CSV file, whatever. It doesn't need to be API. If you have XML feeds or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. If you can just give me. Okay. In the GDC catalog is a new thing called
System appliqué au point énergétique.
basically that one. Right, okay. You have my full attention. Yeah, I probably me just now.
Sorry, I probably didn't understand this correctly, but
You see
the
the
API key that we got from the build portal of MeteoGate.
Yeah.
Just publish that.
Where is this?
Everything works.
Where do we use it?
So let me go to their portal. I can show you.
Okay.
So these are the routes that are currently configured in the
Yeah.
API. So some of these, or maybe most of these, allow anonymous access,
Okay.
but not all. Some require API key, and almost all have a higher rate limits if you register and use API key.
Okay.
So if you want to use API key with these, you can do. Let's go to the FMI. I copy my API.
Okay,
here.
I think it's got Jason. I think. Yeah, give that a go.
And if I go to the API, MeteoGate FI EDR, and do this, you can put this also to the headers, but it's easier this way now.
That's the only thing that I can think is different. So.
Okay, there's something wrong with the configuration. Let's test. Okay, demo effect. I have to check there's something wrong in the configuration. But basically, if you do this, then you get higher rate limits if you use your own API key. You can check from the headers the numbers there should be higher than it would be for the unregistered users. Also, if you disallow the usage of your API without registering, then you have to do this. Otherwise, you get an error.
Okay, but are that which API is protected and which is not, and which one? What's the difference in rate limits that we get? This should be again. This should be analyzed to the GitHub source code, or will this information be front end at some point for developers?
You mean where you set the rate limit?
No, I think we went through how to set it, but
yeah.
But for me as a consumer,
yeah. So
how do I know that I just have to plug in the API key?
So we have to remember here the consumer is the client.
Yeah.
So whoever programs the client, it needs to check from the error code and possibly from the header and let the user know if they hit the rate limit, there's a specific error, and the application has to give that error to the user that too many requests in this time period, or whatever they want to inform the user. And of course, if the user is the developer, you can see from the header the current status, how many requests there are left and so on.
Okay, so it's pretty much developer is blindfolded, like he has to just keep using it until
no, the developer can see it from the headers. What is the limit?
Oh, okay.
I can show it. I showed it earlier, but let's see if I still have the. Okay, here, for example. So when I loaded this comes through the API gateway. So I have some stuff here I have to move. So you can see these X headers here. So the developer knows that the rate limit is 50. Let me reload this so we can see the press situation.
Okay,
It's 50 requests per 300 seconds.
okay.
So
Origin